Good afternoon. Happy Leap Day, February 29th. We only get one of these every 4 years. Let's make it a good one today. So, in today's video, we're talking about property once again. What is the hidden value of property? Why is property priceless? This is part two. A few weeks ago, we talked about the economic benefits of property. We talked about the economic lessons that can come from it, the economic leverage, and the legacy that all of that leaves behind. Because the reality is, when we're talking about estate planning, the family home, right, or the home is really a cornerstone of it. And particularly since this is also the last day of the month of February, which is Black History Month, it's particularly important because traditionally home ownership, right, has been the pillar, the cornerstone of Black wealth in this country. Okay, so I will put a link in the video to part one, which is talking about all the economic benefits of property and the things that we can leave in that way for our legacy, for our lineage, right? For our children, whomever we want to look out for. But in today's video, I really want to talk more about the real benefit that you get from leaving behind property to your children, to your children's children. What that really means. Is it a source of wealth? Of course. Is there material value? Yes. Is there a dollar sign? Yes, there is, right? But it's been coming to me a lot lately, and I've heard this question asked many times. How would your life have changed? How would it have been different if your parents would have left you a home with no mortgage, right? And the way I thought about it was not just a home, but your own home. So it could have been the family home you were raised in, but they could still be alive living there and they give you a home, right? What would that mean? What would be that value? Would you think about it as, oh, they left me $100,000, right? Or they've given me $200,000. They've given me $1,000,000, whatever the price of the property is, maybe. But there is a hidden value that we don't really stress enough of how important it is, how much legacy that will leave behind, how much we're really teaching our children too when we do that. And so we're going to talk about that today. When it comes to this issue of property and the value of it, there are three things I want to cover today that don't outweigh the economic benefits necessarily, but they are just as, if not this much more important, because we can have all the money in the world, but if we don't have these things, it really doesn't matter. Okay. And leaving property can help do this. So, number one is, of course, shelter, right? Would you rather have $1,000,000 in the bank or you have nowhere to live? you know, and there's just a peace and shelter. There's no stress about where you're going to lay your head. There's no stress about if you're going to be able to afford a property one day. I was just reading recently, I saw an article come up, I have to do more research on it, that said that this millennial generation, which is the part of the generation I was born in between 1980 and 1995, right around that, are set to inherit nearly $90 trillion worth of wealth from the earlier generations. But at the same time, right, our generation has traditionally not been buying homes as fast as previous generations because, of economic challenges, because of the recessions that we've endured, things of that nature. So imagine if, in addition to inheriting that kind of wealth, we don't have to go out there and now kind of recreate, right? What is it? Redesign the wheel and trying to get our own house, right? How many of us would be better off having a property where we can call home, we can lay our head, it can be our shelter? And if that's the family home, if we kept it in the home for that purpose, how much of a value would it bring to us that we wouldn't have to stress about where we're going to rest? We would have somewhere where we can go to for solace, for peace, for quiet, for basic replenishment. That's key, right? In addition to not having to pay a mortgage, in addition to not having to pay home insurance, property insurance, right, on the home, and just all of the maintenance and repairs that come with home ownership is so much, right? That may or may not, right, be effective, but the shelter part, just knowing that you have somewhere to call yours, knowing that it is secure for you. And if it is mortgage free, because a lot of homes I know are mortgage free out here now, especially if they've been in the home for a few generations, or if mom and dad had the main home and then they invested and did other things of that nature. It's not uncommon for a lot of people to have more than one home and rent them out, do whatever they need to do with it. I've had clients who've had several properties, ultimately going to leave them all to their children, but they do rent them out so that they're actually bringing in income too that they're going to leave later on. So there's just so much diversity in that. But again, aside from the money part of it, aside from the material wealth of it, the peace of it, right? Shelter, just knowing that you have somewhere to be. Second is security. So something that you can count on moving forward, right? So when times are tough and maybe you're renting and you're like, oh my God, how can I keep up with the rent this month, right? There is this stress that goes along with it because we don't know what we're going to do. We don't know what's coming next. As opposed to if we specifically, right, laid out as part of our design, part of our legacy, and it doesn't even have to be like we bought the property right away. Even if we left the equivalent, the money amount of the property, right, for the use of buying that first home, right, after they marry or whatever it is, even if we did that much, the security that comes with it, okay, the fact that we have that to count on, that we can continue moving forward with whatever it is we're going to do. If children or grandchildren are in college, if they are contemplating marriage and they don't know how they're going to raise their family yet because they're still renting and like times are already tough. If we already have it set out for them to be set up for success by having this property laying around just for them, imagine the security that will give them. And not the security just of having that, but the security moving forward on what they're going to do because they can, because they're not stressed about what's going to happen if, you know. And this is not to say that it's a be all end all. I'm letting you know right now. So many people come to me and they have questions and they're like, well, how do I XYZ? And we go XYZ and we come up with all the scenarios because they want like this one thing that's going to work and that's it. And I'm telling you right now, there is no one thing that's just going to work and that's it. All right. You have to be able to not avoid the risks, but manage them and act accordingly. And so, yes, it might be this, it might be that. So, for instance, when it comes to leaving a property, yes, you might leave a mortgage-free property or you might leave them enough money to buy their own home, right? Even with a mortgage-free property, they still got to pay the property taxes every year. They're going to come around, right? If it's in a homeowners association, they're going to pay those fees, right? There's always going to be something. So there's no foolproof. And then we don't want to do that either for the next generation because we're teaching them the wrong thing, that everything in life is easy, that everything in life is handed to them. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost. They think that if they do that, if they do leave the next generation with a certain amount, then they're going to lose some kind of character because they don't have to fight for it. They don't have to be challenged by it. And that's not true. The challenges are coming no matter what. But do you want them to be completely unprepared and completely on their own when they're facing their challenges? Or do you want to equip them with something where they can say, okay, at least I have this. Now, this job challenge, I don't have to worry about it because I have this house, I have this property, right? That is the mindset to take into it, not to be afraid of them facing the challenges, not to be afraid that leaving them something means that I'm not equipping them well. That's not what it is. You can provide them a lot of security when it comes to everything else they're going to be doing in life. Leaving the home doesn't guarantee the business they start will work. It doesn't guarantee that the marriage is going to work. It doesn't guarantee that the kids are going to come. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to finish school. Like, there's going to be more challenges. Just don't make it more difficult than it has to be for them. I think ultimately we can learn that lesson. Like, we want to do everything we can to support our children while we're here, especially when they're young. But just because they turn 18 doesn't mean they know it all. They surely don't. I was 18 before, weren't you? Did you know it all? Come on, that's the question right now, right? We all know the answer. Of course not. So they're not going to know it now. Leaving them something is not going to take away from the life lessons that are going to come. So don't be afraid of that. So shelter, security. And then I mentioned the last one, but I want to kind of save it for last because this is more important than anything else, in my opinion. Okay. The peace. Ultimately, what is going to give you peace? And when it comes to the storms of life, again, with the shelter and the security, if we have that in place, then we can have peace. we can have somewhere to recover and restore during these storms. Okay. It's like do you want to be like in a dinghy floating around in the ocean when the storm is coming? Or do you want to have a submarine that you can try to pass on underneath it, right? Or some kind of boat with a insulation so that you can make it through the storm. You're just going to be out there. It's tough. Life is tough. We don't need to make it any more difficult for our children. We don't need to provide them everything, thinking that if we do that, they're never going to face any difficulties. That's not true. But what we can do is equip them as best and as much as possible to face the challenges, but also to build on what we've done so that they're not trying to do it all over again. It just doesn't make any sense to do that. We know how difficult it was. Right? We know how difficult it can be to start a business. We know how difficult it can be to buy a home, to maintain the home. Hello, homeowners. Okay. Buying it is one thing. Getting finance, getting mortgage, or not conventional, but non-traditional, however you get the money, that's one thing. Once you have the home, upkeeping it is a totally different animal, right? So it's like, are we saying that by doing that for them, we're doing everything? No, we're not. But we are doing as much as we can to leave a legacy. And that's what it's ultimately going to be too. Because when we do these things for them, they will realize the benefit, not just the money. If that's the whole entire lesson of the video, they will realize your beneficiaries will benefit not just from the money and not just from the materiality, but from the meaning, what it is, what it means for you to have done that for them. They will pick up on it. They will understand the importance of it. When the challenges come, they're going to appreciate it so much. I lost my job, or I'm not passing this class. The business hasn't been what it's been, but thank God and thank my parents, thank my grandparents that I'm covered. I have this shelter. I have this security. I have this place of peace. I don't have to worry about that on top of everything else going on. Okay. So that is really the hidden value in property. That is why property is truly priceless. Part 2 in this video. That's what I wanted to share with you today. Okay. This is Attorney Tina Patterson. I will be back for more. Once again, we are live every Thursday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this channel. So until next Thursday, March 7th, I'll see you then. Take care.